Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Quantum Realms 2022. And today I have the incomparable Heather Alice Shea, who is the founder and CEO of Atmana Academy. Hi, Heather.
Candace, it's always so much fun to see you and do this with you. You're one of my most favorite humans, and it is an honor to be here with you today.
It's so great. I always have so much fun talking to you, whether we're doing it recording like this or sharing or offline. I know that I'm going to be laughing and going, you tell it, girl. Either, publicly or privately, you and I have the same kind of energy and see a lot of things in the same way. So how are you doing? What's new with you? And, with our theme this year, I bet you have a thing or two to say about integrity, power, and truth.
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, I'm doing really well. I think I'm doing, my family's doing, my kid, and all of us that are a part of the awakened community. I think that we're doing a bang up job surviving, going into year 3 of the absolute insanity that has been, our reality, this separation, as our late and beautiful mentor, Dolores Cannon, she was banging this drum of the separation of, 3D to 5D for a very long time, for years and years and years before it happened. And it's quite something, I think, to truly be living it and knowing that you're living it while you're living it. It's one thing to live it and then realize it in hindsight. It's another to live it and go, oh my God, and I'm living it right now, So I think we're all doing really, really well with it. But also I think it's a testament to how many healers are really trying to step up and own their power, their integrity, and their truth. And really what comes up to me around the theme for Quantum Realms this year is about us stepping up as leaders and really claiming the space of leadership at this point in time in our evolution. So, we talk a lot about waking up. Let's wake up. Everybody needs, we're waking up, I'm an awakened person. And what I would really like to do is just say, okay, now what? Now what? Now what, right? We're awake. We get it. We're awake. You and I have been at this game for a long time. I think that the people listening to this are very aware, probably have been hyper aware their whole lives. What do we do next? That's the conversation I want to bring. And at Atmana, we talk a lot about rising. I think the next step beyond being an awakened person, being a person who sees and hears and knows and feels and studies ascension every single day, who tries to align with their higher self every single day. To me, power, integrity, and truth is, what do we do now with it? And what I think we're called to do is rise. I think that this is about rising. I think it's about standing up. Okay, your eyes are open, now what? It's time to stand up and start leading from a place of consciousness. What I see happening in the world today is these old, one-dimensional paradigms of like this hierarchical structure, the person with the degrees, the person with all the clout, the person with the 50 million Instagram followers, that top-down old school Piscean energy is really going away. And it's what's replacing it is a decentralized, organic network. Instead of a hierarchy, we're moving into this Aquarian, this notion of network, right? And what networks need are strong nodes diversified throughout the network, right? So in other words, lots of leaders in their sphere of influence. And that is what I am training my coaches to do in Atmana, to step up and be a leader, to understand that you have tremendous power to speak the truth with integrity within your sphere of circle, your sphere of influence, which you might not think is a lot, but really is. And how do we do that together? And what do you want that to look like personally and professionally in your life?
Gosh, what a powerful beginning statement from you. I really am buzzing all over just listening to you. I think you're spot on about asking our, spiritual healing community to step up as leaders. So many healers are quiet and want to kind of remain in the shadows and do the quiet kind of work. And I understand that that is one way of presenting oneself in the world, but we still need to participate in the leadership that is required for us as humans and humanity to go forward. I read something the other day, and I was astonished to read it. And it was on social media. And the question was something like, what's bugging you most about people these days that are around you, what's bugging you most about them? And this person who I would say is in, our spiritual community said this, that the thing that bothered them the most was when they would call true leadership tyranny. And I just went, whoa. I mean, really, whoa. So when people are calling out tyranny right now, this is what I got from it. Well, that's tyranny. That's certainly tyranny. That's overreach. That's control. That's top down kind of stuff that you're talking about. Mm-hmm. There's a certain segment of even our community that's going, that's true leadership, pointing at something that I might call tyranny and calling it true leadership. And that really stopped me in my tracks. I've been pondering that for the last couple of days, really wondering how we can see something so differently, even assuming that we are,
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think you're hitting it. That's a beautiful thing to ponder, isn't it? Because we are all different. We do have different perceptions of what things are. And what I feel that statement or that statement is asking us to do is ask ourselves the question, what is leadership? And what I think we've done with leadership is we've made it this big, outrageous thing. My 18-year-old daughter is a leader.
Oh God, she's not 18 already.
Yeah, she's 18. She just turned 18. Can you believe that? She was like 8 when we met. Oh my gosh. Yeah, she's 18. She's going off to college. I think we've made leadership this big, gigantic thing. To me, being a leader is being someone who has the ability to pull out the best in a person, something within them that they didn't even know they had, or that they've wanted so desperately to claim, but they've been too scared to. A leader is someone who reminds a person of their true power, of their true strength, of their true calling. And they lovingly, through their presence, ask a person, they invite them, they give them this opportunity. The leader does this just by being who the leader is, right? It's not like they formally do this. It's just you invoke this higher self-awareness. It's almost like it compels the person to rise, right? Because it's your higher self connecting directly to that person's higher self, even if that higher self is a part of them that they've denied, repressed, suppressed, or forgotten. That is to me what leadership is. And so when we look at the true definition of what leadership is, and my dad would say this to me, honey, a leader is just somebody people choose to follow. It's just somebody people choose to listen to. They don't have there's nothing extra special about them. It's just they're the person people decide to listen to because they trust the person and because the person is dedicated to their well-being and benefit. Leaders lead from behind. Leaders serve other people first. That is why they are leaders. They are concerned about the well-being of the people with whom they have influence and stewardship. And so when we really start to understand what leadership is, we understand that it is 1,000 years, light years away from tyranny.
Yeah, right.
So tyranny is, and here's how we know, right? Tyranny is when you have to strip away rights and coerce people or just straight out force people to do things they don't want to do that violate their their sovereignty. So leadership invokes a person's divine sovereignty. Tyranny coerces and asks one to abdicate their sovereignty. And that's the difference. Now, what's sad in our world is that we have people who do not understand and cannot see. They don't have the discernment because of our own traumas, our own trauma bonds, and lifetime after lifetime of seeing abuse and justifying abuse, that we actually want to be oppressed. We actually want to be dictated over. There are people in this world that love a good tyrant. Never met one they didn't like. Okay. Because when you have a tyrant in your life, guess what? You don't have to be responsible for a damn thing.
Right.
And so this is why tyrants continue to exist in our world, and they will continue to exist in our world, until we as a collective species decide that we are going to become what I lovingly refer to. And trust me when I say this, brothers and sisters, I am holding a mirror up to my own face as I say it, until we decide to become spiritual adults.
Yeah.
It's about becoming a spiritual adult. And that means you look yourself in the mirror, you take responsibility for your freaking life, and you deal with that, and you do your own inner work. My mother told me something when I was in my late 20s and I resented her for it. I was like, I hate you. You're the worst. Until I got into my mid 30s and I was like, shit, she's right. She looked at me and she said, honey, you know what? You're right. You are right. You got a lot of baggage from your childhood. There was a lot of trauma, neglect, abandonment, poverty. Your father and I were a complete mess. Yes, you are right. And I see it now. We handed you those bags, but baby girl, you are a grown woman and you wake up every day choosing to carry them. And who is responsible for that? Not who's to blame, because I don't believe in blame. I think it's toxic and it doesn't help anybody move forward. It's 100% blameless responsibility. And so we like tyrants because they allow us to be irresponsible. We don't have to pay the consequences. We're just going to get a stimulus check or, whatever, right? And there's nothing inherently wrong with any of this. I'm not saying that people are bad for doing it. There's no judgment, but it is about understanding that right now in this critical moment in our life, one of the ways that the shift from 3D to 5D is happening is there are those who want to continue to blindly follow leaders and make excuses. And there are those who don't, who want to say, I don't know what the answer is. You and I deeply disagree about certain things that are very, very important to our species. We deeply disagree. I couldn't disagree with you more, as a matter of fact. And I love you. And I support your right to feel the way you feel. And I will never condone violence upon you. Never, ever will I ever condone violence. And I will never coerce you to do anything. We don't get to do that. So that to me is the bottom line. It's this. As of this recording, we're in kind of the Will Smith smacking Chris Rock fallout, which I think is hysterical. And I was thinking yesterday to my husband, I said, wow, isn't it interesting to watch everybody's trauma bond with their abuser manifest right now on, you're giving me 50 shades of why it's okay to hit somebody. You're giving me 50 shades of why it's okay that he smacked the crap. That man got up, and I have no problem saying it. I understand the reasons why, but you do not get to lay your hands on somebody. You don't get to like literally violate another human being's sacred divine temple that is their body. Right now, I understand why. We can all, Chris was fine. It's okay. Everybody just needs to calm the hell down. But it's interesting to watch. It's not so much the event that happened. It's to watch people justify another human being. Like, would you be okay? And think about it like this. If you allow another person to be hit, abused, coerced, damp in any type of way in their body, you are also saying it's okay if they did that to your child, your wife, your loved one. There is a line there, right? Yeah. So to me, the line between leadership and the tyranny is there are some things that I think we can all agree on, and that a person is safe in their own body needs to be one of them. I mean, it's just other than that, we don't really have any common there's no safety, right? Safety in our own person. So that's kind of my take on it. And we're using this to talk through it. But yeah, leadership and tyranny are completely different things. And we are all born sovereign. And I believe that's the ground we're all going to stand on as we move into this new shift. It's to respect the personhood and the sovereignty of the soul of the individual who is here, and then figure out how to deal with all the tension that comes with respecting each other and loving each other as the sacred other that we are, and forgiving one another along the way, right? Because we're going to do stupid things. But that to me is my take on it. It's how do we want to be spiritual adults in the world? And this is very challenging because we don't know what that looks like. And also we have a lot of pain that we need to sort through individually and collectively. So, which is why we need healers to stand up and lead. Hello.
Oh my gosh. While you're talking, I have to tell you, I don't want to focus too much on it, but I've decided watching this Academy Award thing, of course, or maybe I should not say of course, but I did not watch the shows. I'm not interested in any of that. But of course, some of the fallout, you'd have to be living under a really big rock to not have heard of any of that. But for me, I thought, okay, wait a second, is that real or is it staged?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that I have the answer to that, but I will say that I find it interesting that what happened was on a stage, and it was during a show. So I've kind of, I don't know, but at the moment, it seems to have been, to me, a little show within a show,
Sure,
within a bigger show. But I'm with you about watching sort of the fallout and so the thing that happened, you can talk all day long, whether it was real or not real,
right?
Between them, set up, went astray, whatever. What is interesting is how people are talking about it, and how some people are like, you can talk about it, and other people are like, you can't talk about that. This was the right thing. This was the wrong thing. And and I watched the whole thing again going, even this thing was given to the populace for the thing that's happening again, which is sides,
Right.
and the division again. And I'm just fascinated by this, absolutely fascinated.
And to me, it comes down to, and I agree with you. I think it is irrelevant whether it was fake or not. I don't care. I never watch award shows, never have in my whole life. What is interesting to me as a life coach, an intuitive, an empath, and a psychotherapist, a former psychotherapist, is the psychological relationship, the spiritual relationship we have to the event, because that is the mirror of the event, right? That we can use to look at ourselves, right? So we get to know ourselves through looking at this event. And I think it's all valid. That's what's so cool about having an open mind is I listen to everyone's take on it. And I'm like, dude, I totally get it. Like, I see what you're saying, dude. I understand you. I understand deeply why you think that. I get everyone's side. I see all angles. I get it. But you're right. It comes down to this lens of the bifurcation of the mind. It's this Piscean, I'm right. That inherently means that you're wrong. Not I'm right from my perspective, you're right from your perspective. There's a higher right that the divine might know of, that the process of ascension, that's why it's so exciting, because we get to discover higher truth, higher knowledge, to become more in integrity with ourselves. Oh my goodness, how amazing that we're all on that path together of ascending. And I know that if I listen to you, even though I might in this moment deeply disagree or think that that's not a higher truth, I know that if I listen to your side, I'm going to learn something.
Yes.
I'm going to learn something. And that something is going to take me closer to God. It's going to take me closer to the truth. I really believe that every person in your life, no matter how crappy or icky they make you feel, they've got something to teach you. And it's my responsibility to keep an open mind and listen. I don't have to believe them. I don't have to believe them. They don't have to convert me. Oh God, I was wrong. I think a big reason why people are afraid to listen to other people with an open mind is they're afraid they're going to be convinced they're not right. And their ego is like, oh, hell no, don't listen to that. We might have to change our minds and admit we were wrong. Girl, bitch, I don't have to admit I'm wrong about nothing, because I don't think you're wrong and I don't think I'm right. I think I have a perspective, a lens through which I see the world. So to me, all of this stems from our trauma. All of this stems from these past life wounds, our early childhood wounds, where we are absolutely terrified to sit with the uncomfort of the mirror, right? To be able to say, I'm going to hold my truth right now because this is what I know to be true. And I'm also going to listen to you. And I'm going to do it through understanding that you are my brother and that you are my sister. And that love, my concern and my compassion and my love for you as a divine sister and brother is the ground upon which I will forever stand and never move from.
Yeah. Because
that is the only way that we can move forward with respect for all people, honoring our differences. And I'm so glad that we're different. I am so glad that there are people in the world that aren't like me, because damn, that would be pretty boring. That would be really, really boring, right? And it would also make my offering not special. So, I'm glad that we have different countries and different flags and different, could you imagine if there was no Mexico and no Mexican culture, or if there was no Argentinian culture, or if there was no German culture, or no African culture, I think all of this makes life so beautiful. And it's not something to be afraid of. It might be deeply different. But if we can just look at it like, oh, I'm going to incorporate this into how I perceive myself. I'm not letting go of myself. I'm becoming bigger. I'm gaining more power and integrity in doing so. So, which again is back to you and I's commitment in the world to train healers, to help people gain the skills that they need to assist individuals in addressing the wounds, healing the scars. That really is what we need to be focused on right now as a healing community. I mean, think about it like this. You think we don't have the answers? Could you imagine how a person right now who's never read a self-help book, who's never dived into spirituality, who has no clue about any of this, man, it's football and beer on the weekends. Could you imagine that that's you're living your life right now in this world? Trust me when I say people need you. They need your voice. They need you to speak up in whatever way that feels comfortable and right for you, right? We all have to choose our path. Maybe you do it quietly. Maybe you do it behind the scenes. However it is people choose to do it. I think we would be shocked if we knew how much your average person in this world is really, really struggling. I mean, I'm struggling. We're all struggling, and we are aware of this crap. It's unbelievable, man. So to me, I just feel like it's a mandate right now that we don't, in my world, I don't have time for this bullshit. I have got things that I don't have time for this bullshit. Like I am too busy trying to love people. I am too busy trying to understand people. And I am too busy trying to love, forgive, and understand and have compassion for my own dumb ass as I move through the world. And that is, I feel like, a very dynamic, active, but loving place to be and to move from.
You've used the word individual a number of times since we've started talking. And I think that's a big part of what a certain sort of mindset is trying to completely eliminate,
Mm-hmm.
And I find that really dangerous because it's the individualism. And I think it's a uniquely, you can argue what's working and what's not working in our country right now, but the focus on individualism in America anyway has always been one of the things that I've found the light shining on brightly that made a lot of sense and made me very happy to call myself an American and born right here. But I'm watching some of the focus on the power of the individual kind of eroding away, along with some of the free speech stuff. And a lot of this, you know, you and I are in quite a bit of agreement, as most of us, I think, in this community are about. And that's why, you know, being an individual, I think those who hold that high on a pedestal, that thought, that ideal, that's when the coercion part really comes into play. For me, it's like, you know, the go along to get along, and the do it for the everybody kind of stuff. But when it comes trampling up against what you said just a little while ago, your own bodily safety. This is my bodily safety here, you know, and I don't know that I'm going to give up any of that to anybody for any reason. And being a healer, a therapist, and somebody who helps people, those are the people who have historically needed the most help, is when that bound right there has been broken and repeatedly broken. Those are the people who need the most assistance getting back to that feeling safe right there. So how you celebrate or encourage or push this concept of community and helping everyone be safe by breaking down the individual boundaries, you know, it just doesn't compute to me at all.
Yeah, I totally see your perspective on it, and I agree. I think that a couple of things. So this conversation of the individual versus the collective can be talked about on many different levels of analysis. Okay, so we can look at it from the perspective of, what is the social contract? So as an individual, I do have responsibilities to my fellow mankind. I do, right? We are all, absolutely, we do. So that's the social contract. And people who lean more on, hey, let's do it for the collective side, they tend to be a little more focused on the social contract. Then you have people who are more of the individualist, kind of the libertarian perspective, and they're like, no, it's the individual. So I certainly think that's a really interesting conversation to have. You know, what is the individual's contract, social contract to fellow man? That's one level, but I think really where we really should begin the conversation is what is an individual? What is an individual? Okay. And then from there, what is a collective? So let's just start with some basic definitions of what these things are. So let's take it from the spiritual perspective. We know that we are born into this planet. We choose to come here, right? And we are born with a specific personality. So we have the tripartite model of the Godhead, right? We've got our lower self, colloquially referred to as the ego. Then we have our personality self, and then we have our higher self, right? The version of us, our perfected, our God self, right? The perfected version of us that God intended us to be, right? So, but you were born. Here's why I am a ferocious advocate for the individual. Because for us to say that the individual has to be compromised for the collective is to say that the personality construct, right, which is, and that's a technical term to say the version of you God wanted you to become. We are not tabula rasas. Okay. We are born with personalities. We are born with specific gifts. We are born with specific talents. We are born with specific abilities. We are born with specific things to learn, specific things to create, specific things to offer, specific things to say no to, specific causes to champion. This is a thing called your purpose, people. You're born to manifest that in the world, and you do it through expressing your individual nature. It is the true creative life, okay, is the expression of one's soul. In the Latin, the word genius, if you look at the root word, when you called a person a genius, you were literally looking and referring to that person. They would say, he's a genius, she's a genius. What did they mean by that? That they would say, this is the proper definition of it is, this is a person who is walking, expressing the uniqueness and the power of their own soul. It didn't mean you scored really high on the IQ test. It meant that this is a person expressing their soul's purpose. They are a genius. And so if you say that an individual has to compromise that for the collective, then you are quite literally destroying, saying that the divinity within the individual is subservient to some man-made structure. And I think that that is the epitome of evil. I will stand against it till the day I die. And I am pretty darn sure about that. Okay. Now, with that being said, you can't walk around being a narcissistic asshole. So I think where a lot of people get on this whole individual rights, no, go towards a social contract, is because of their trauma, because of their unhealed wounds, because of their inability to be a spiritual adult. When they look at this, they look at a person expressing normal, sovereign, this is just me living my life that God gave me to live, that if you don't like it, go away. You got to learn to deal with it because everybody has the right to live their life. They see that as tyranny or narcissism or being quote unquote selfish. Mm-hmm. It's not being quote unquote selfish. It's not at all. It's we just deeply disagree. And you have a problem letting me live in my own body and in my own life the way I choose to. You don't have to like it, but that's just the way that it is. And the answer isn't to force, coerce, and hurt everyone. That's not the answer. So I think that again, individual versus social contract, interesting conversation. I think that we do have to make allowances, but where spiritually, from a spiritual perspective, for me, that buck stops is an individual has to be sovereign there. And it's not because I want my way and I want an Oompa Loompa and I want it now. It's not that like I want my own way. It's that I'm trying as best I can to express the divinity God. It's actually a sacred act. Mm-hmm. And what is a collective? Let's look at the other side. What's a collective? It's a group of people. It's a group of individuals. Mm-hmm. And so here's why I'm like deeply against the whole, like, do it for the betterment of mankind. Well, who says what's better? First of all, oh, you mean the psychopathic leaders we have in office right now? Those people?
The person with the loudest voice, don't you know?
That's right. The narcissist, the psychopath.
The one who's yelling the loudest is who we should be listening to.
Right. The most convincing guy. So, think of it like this. You've got 20 people at the beach. The water is freezing, right? Let's say we're on the shores of Iceland. The water is freezing. Nobody wants to go in, right? But President Bob tells everybody that for the greater good, everybody's got to run in. And so everybody sits there and goes, well, I'm going to run in because I'm doing it for you. And the other guy's, well, I'll run in too. I'll do it for you. But nobody on the beach actually wants to go because you all know you're going to freeze to death. Or maybe you just don't feel like swimming. Okay, let's start there. Maybe I just don't want to. So everybody runs in and freezes to death because Bob, the guy with the loud micro, like, this is why you cannot say for the greater good. By the way, study 20th century and you will find that every tyrant who has ever mercilessly murdered his own people or committed genocide against a group of people he did not like used the argument of the greater good. There has never been a tyrant that has not invoked that. And I'm sorry if that makes you uncomfortable, but that is a historical fact. So I just don't buy that. And the reason why I don't buy it is because a collective of people are simply just a bunch of individuals trying to get along, trying to love each other, trying to work it out. And so I think the best way to help the collective is to allow people that individual sovereignty, allow them to safely express what they believe. And I think in that tension of listening and loving each other, we come up with the right answer, right? Yeah. And I think that answer is way better than anything we're ever going to get to through pointing fingers and othering entire populations of people. So, again, it comes back to the wisdom of spirit, having enough, being able to handle the truth and taking care of yourself, being a spiritual adult and trusting yourself enough that you're going to be okay. And doing your own inner work so that you can handle a deep relationship with another person. That's not superficial. That's not childish. Give me what I want, or I'm going to be mad, point fingers at you. It's absolute insanity. And yet this is where we are. So I think collectively what we're experiencing is it's like an abscess breaking, it comes to the surface.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it breaks.
Oh, yeah.
That's what we're in.
How do we inspire leadership without people feeling like it's just futile? If you even kind of look back, well, it's happened and it happens and it keeps happening and it keeps happening. And I don't know, maybe we all kind of think this. I know I certainly did, listening to mom and dad, but particularly mom, who grew up in Nazi Germany. I remember as a kid and young adult thinking, well, I sure am glad I didn't have to go through any of that.
Yeah.
Well, what I find fascinating is like, oh, well, what, there's just a lot of stuff repeating itself here. But then there's a sort of exhausted futility that comes up.
Yeah.
And I really wonder how do we break through that for the people who just tired of treading water during all of this and have been, and I mean, maybe that's part of it. Maybe that's part of what they're trying to, big T, exhaust us all so that we do give up.
I'll die. I'll put my foot in their face until the day I die. I'll never give up. I think that for me, as you were speaking, you almost made me cry a little, Candace, because I feel that fatigue. I think I have felt it my whole life. I think I felt it way before this started. Yeah. And I think so many awakened people, man, they're just so tired. And I'll be vulnerable with you. I'm tired in a way and from a place within myself that has nothing to do with even this world. I'm tired in my soul, man. I don't know how many assignments I've had down here, but I am tired. And I think so many of us are. And I don't know the answer to that question. I think it's a beautiful question. I don't know the answer to it for us. I can only answer it from how I've had to teach myself to deal with myself in that heartbreak and in that sadness and in the mourning. I mourn humanity's state. It breaks me. It could break me in two. It hurts so bad to see creatures so beautiful in so much pain and so disconnected from the beauty of who they are. It is so hard. And therein lies, I think, the answer. What is it worth to me to get up one more day and serve to the best of my ability? I'm going to do it sloppily. I'm going to do it. I'm going to make so many mistakes, but what does it mean to me to help one more person? Yeah. What is that worth to me? Is it worth another day of fatigue? Is it worth another lifetime of it? And the answer is, I'll never quit forever. Yeah. I'll come back down here as many times as I have to come. I'm not gonna quit. My dad would say, baby, you can give out, but you can't give up. You can give out, you can rest, you can sit down. Okay. You're give out. You don't have any more energy. You need a break. Okay. But you can't, what you got to do is get back up. You can't give up. And that's what I say to myself. I have to go back to trusting the deep purpose of my life, and how I know that I have one is that I exist. And you do too. You exist. We exist. We exist here. We're here for a reason. So I think it's okay to sit in that sadness, and it's okay to feel that fatigue. And I ask myself, you know what, Heather, you have no idea the difference you're making. And when you fade into the black and you go to your life review, you're going to be shocked at how well you did. And I think that's true for all of us, right? Yep. With every moment we have an opportunity to impact people's lives, I think we're so much more powerful than we think we are. We really are. And then
sometimes go ahead. Sometimes I think it's kind of like watching a fuel tank, head towards empty a little bit. And I've been pondering a lot of this, and I know that sometime about in March of 2020, about when we were, about 2 weeks into the that flattening the whatever it
Yeah.
was concept. And I had almost, I didn't even quite completely understand why, but I had this like these few days where I just was absolutely sobbing all day long, more than I even understood why. Right. Even more than I understood why. And about the only thing that could come out of my mouth to anyone who was seeing this for me, and there weren't too many people, you know, I would say back, why aren't you more upset with, why aren't you more upset, you know, with what's going on here? Even though I wasn't sure what was going on, I was certainly upset by it. Like all my feelers and radar was out about all of it, and not because of fear of a bug of any kind,
Right.
but because of what was taking place in front of me. And I think it was just sort of, it was almost like a precognitive thing of what we were getting ready to step into. This really, it was like you know, you think things are tough, and you think, well, here you got to maybe run a 50-yard dash, but what you really got going is like 2 or 3 marathons in a row in front of you. That's what's really going to go on here. Even though, you know, you might think you've got to do a little sprint here, what you really got is a marathon, and you haven't trained and you haven't prepared for it, or at least you didn't know that that you could have, or that you didn't get yourself ready for this. It was sort of thrust upon you. And so there is an exhaustion. And I think for me anyway, the way I'm feeling better is to connect with people like you, some other people who we all may have sort of, our fuel tanks may be going on empty a little bit, but boy, I always feel better when a whole bunch of us are together. And maybe that's the whole collective thing right there. You all kind of feel like but once you get together, that kind of fills up another kind of tank, right? You know,
Absolutely.
where we help energize each other. And so I'm grateful for people like you.
Me too,
and
sister.
others and others who've connected here on Quantum Realms. Yeah, the connection with each other is you know, it increases our individual spark, I think.
Yeah, and I think it helps us remember who we are. I think that many of us had, like you were sharing, I vividly remember turning to my husband when all this was going down, the 2 weeks to flatten, you know. I remember just kind of the feeling I had was like, this isn't right. I was calm, but it was like my little antenna. I was like, no. And then I turned to my husband and I said, there's something very wrong. I knew there was something very, very wrong. So I agree with you when you say you felt it, like, cause I was like, no. Like something is about to go down, and I don't know what.
Yeah.
And I turned to my husband. I said, okay, you tell me by when, if this isn't over, you are going to start. Cause he's baby Buddha. Like there's nothing upsets him. You know, I want to rage against the machine, you know, all day long. I'm an Enneagram 8 human design manifester. Like I am like the challenger, the maverick, right? All the way down, but he's baby Buddha. So he was like, by the end of June, if this is still going on by the end of June, and that was June of 2020. Right.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I'm going to chill. And by the end of June, like if that's what Brannon says, that's, you know, law in my mind. So I was like, okay. But I, like you, I knew something was up. And I think that many of us, like for me, I think a lot of the fatigue, it's not so much that I'm actually fatigued with my day-to-day. It's more like the sorrow of just knowing we have to go through this. I think that's more of it.
That's actually, that's really it too. Part of it, I guess, is maybe it was naive, because there's always a underbelly, you know, of humanity and things going on. But, you know, especially with my mom, it's sort of like, well, we got over that. You know, we got over the Holocaust, and we got over some of this really awful stuff, and thinking that we'd matured in a way, like you were talking about being an adult, you know, and And no, actually we didn't. We really didn't. As a whole, it was like we just hid it, or it went underground, or, I don't know.
I think right now we're choosing.
Mm.
We're choosing which reality we want to live in. We get to move forward into the unknown of what does it look like to respect one another, to not go hit, kick, punch, imprison, coerce, rob, or harm another individual when they press our button or when they don't give us what we want. So we're going to figure that out together. We don't know what that looks like because we've never done it before, unless we lived in Lemire or these other advanced civilizations, which by the way, screwed it up at the end anyway. So,
Right.
How great were they? Okay. So we're trying to once and for all this baby in the direction of, which brings me back to the full circle moment of why I say the sovereign nature of the individual is what God put us here to protect and to be. And if we can't agree on that, then there is nothing but slavery and death to the version of us that is trying to live a life of expressing the truth of its soul. Okay. So that to me is my bottom line. But I think that it's that, or it's the recapitulation of previous paradigms of living, where the individuals who choose that get to go and experience that again until their baby soul. Okay. I don't mean this to sound condescending, but I don't care. I'm just going to say it. I say it with love, but like your baby awake, like you're just, it's like you're awake enough to, but you're baby awake. Like you're not really getting the lesson. Like Dolores said, you're going to come down and you're going to learn it again and again and again until you get it right. So they haven't learned the lesson sufficient. They don't have a mother who survived Nazi Germany. I've had lots of, I've learned a lot vicariously through clients over the year, children or grandparents, parents, and children of families. I've had experience with coaching people through that. And I'm going to tell you right now, woo, it'll open your eyes. So I think that is what this is about. And it's scary because people who are choosing the fifth dimensional reality are like, oh my God, are you going to take me down with you?
Right.
And the people in the 3D reality are like, oh my God, are you going to take me down with you? They think it's the same thing. We're both scared of the same thing.
Yeah.
Just for different reasons.
Right.
So I do think that humanity has learned a lot. The ancient scriptures in the Christian tradition talk about the harvest, separating the wheat from the chaff. I think that that's what we're seeing. And, we just have to have faith and trust in that. I also think that way more people are against a lot of these draconian measurements and the draconian response. God bless us. We've had 2.5 years of this. And I really do think that we have held out long enough for reasonable people who aren't completely brainwashed and mind jacked to see that this was an over response. And we don't even have to get into, the reasons why, the Klaus Schwab, the Great Reset. We don't even have to get into any of that, even though you can read a book on it and they wrote it. It's not a conspiracy theory because they've got a whole fucking website on it, and don't get me started, but we don't even have to get into that. We can just say reasonable people are like, yeah, probably not a good idea to continue to literally impoverish the entire world with lockdowns. Like it just doesn't work. Even if we like, okay, we tried it, right? We'll give you that, but it just doesn't work. I think reasonable people are starting to come around. And I am actually insanely hopeful with all of this. I think that let me tell you what I think humanity did, dude. I'm so proud of us. I really am. I mean this, every last human soul that's on this planet right now. I'm so proud of us. Even the ones on the ones who disagree with me, I'm so proud of you. I am so proud of you. What a noble soul you are to live in this time. And if you would have told me at the beginning of this thing that we would still be kicking this, that we would still be I wouldn't have believed it. I would have said, oh no, man, we would capitulate. We would give up. We are, as my mother would say, raising hell off the hinges, year 3. So I think we're going to do, I think there is no way in hell we are giving up our sovereign divinity. I think that we are going to find a way through this. I think that we're going to do it messily and sloppily. I think that some people are going to get slapped and throat punched, and we're going to have to learn how to forgive. And we're going to have to learn to say, I'm sorry. And we're going to have to learn how to live with one another. And how beautiful is that we get an opportunity to do it. And it's that keeps me going. And that is actually one of the greatest, blessings, I think, that a soul could have, to live through this. You know, you and I both know, in facilitating past life regression sessions using Dolores's method, what a privilege it is to come here. Yes. And how much souls want to be here.
Yep.
So just to have a body, and then just to think that you're alive now. I mean, I don't know, when I have my weaker moments, I kind of jack myself up on like, man, you're like a top soldier, sister. You're a warrior. Look at you. You're like the best of the best. You're down there now. Yeah. Man, we are all badasses. I think just to remember our power, to remember how much we really can change things. To me, that puts me back in my excitement and my joy. And also my heart is still broken. It's not that it takes the heartbreak away. Yeah. But it does give me, it gives me a little bit of peace to see that.
I think one of the things that I take as very positive is a phrase that I don't hear anymore, really. And that is, just hold on a little longer and things will go back to normal. This back to normal phrase. I am so glad that I'm not hearing that anymore, because I think that's one of the things that we can think of as a success. We don't want it to go back to normal at all. Nothing like that kind of normal is anything that should go forward. We need something completely created new that looks a little different and a little more mature than we had figured it out before. Although there was a lot of attempts, and some of our founding fathers did some of the very best that they could to bring us to this day and prepare us for this kind of stuff. So I'm very happy that at least that's not said anymore. But I also was thinking something else while you were talking about the keeping on going. I had and it's one of the things that me finding Dolores Cannon resolved all those years later. But I actually went to bed. It's a very strange thing. And I know it's very symbolic for me personally, but maybe more so too. I went to bed December 31st, 1999, a mom of 2 young kids, and we didn't stay up and celebrate or anything. And I woke up January 1st, 2000 with some pretty severe pain that seemed to come out of nowhere. And it was life-changing, life-altering. I couldn't get away from it. Nothing touched it medically. I started down this route of trying to figure out what was wrong and how to fix it. And it was unbelievable how much every moment of my waking self had to deal with this sort of thing. And if somebody would have told me the only way I survived it, if somebody would have told me, every day I woke up thinking, because I would always have a couple of seconds where it wouldn't really start until I was all the way awake. And then when I was all the way awake, it would descend up upon me again. But it wasn't until I found Dolores Cannon and went through my session with her and figured out what was going on and why that was happening. And the basic answer was, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. Mm-hmm. We tried every other way to get your attention. I mean, how weird is that? You're just supposed to be doing this other thing, which is of course what I do now. But if somebody would have told me January 1st, 2000, that it would be 8.5 years before that pain would subside, I would not have been able to mentally withstand that. Something about that I think about, right? Because, the only way that I could keep going is if I thought the next day things could be better. And I did have some days that were a little better than others for sure. And somebody said something to me once, and I know this is sort of getting off track, but it's still one of the things that I practically saved my life, which was if the pain can go away for a little while, it can go away for good.
Oh, wow.
It's just it's a very beautiful statement, and I held on to it. So maybe that's applicable in other ways a little bit, if the mess that we're in, or the coercion, or the tyranny, or the power shit show can go away for a little while. Maybe if it's just in between us, it coming together in collectives, maybe it can go away for good. And maybe that's what we need, more and more of that sort of sense of just keeping on putting one foot in front of the other, and not throwing in the towel.
Yeah. And I love, that's so beautiful. If the pain can go away for a little while, it can go away forever. And I think it does bring us back to the individual. That's again, why the individual is so important, because you are having an experience that's unique to your expression of the divine, right? You are a unique expression of the divine. The Christians would say you're a child of God. Yes. So it's so important to honor that. And it's so important to say that this is necessary. As much as we can't stand this, as much as we hate it, as much as we don't understand it, as much as we're like raging against the machine, as much as we want to crumple down in the corner and cry, we have to trust that there is a reason why this is happening, and that we are here to be a part of it, and that we get to choose what type of player we want to be, what type of actor. I remember when I was studying Judaism many years ago, I fell in love with this rabbi who said, in their tradition, every person, even dark forces, serve the will of God. They just don't know that they're serving the will of God, but they are. That God is clearly, obviously God, so smart enough, God universe, however, whatever you're comfortable with. Make no mistake, man, you're gonna be serving the everlasting will of God. You are going to be, but you do get a choice on who you show up as. Are you the protagonist or the antagonist? And you get to say what that experience is like. And I think that on the individual level is where we need to focus. How do you want to show up today? Do you want to be a leader? Do you want to use your voice to empower and uplift and alleviate the suffering of other people? Or do you want to sit down and doubt yourself and play small and woe is me and give up? Bob Marley said the dark forces that run this world, I'm paraphrasing here, aren't taking a day off. So why are you? So to me, that's it. I believe that there is an unfolding here in this moment, in our now moment, that we perceive it as time, and at this moment in time. I believe that there is an unfolding that is happening, whether we like it or not. There's the elephant is moving towards Delphi, and I'm just a gnat on its ass. Okay. I know that it's going to move the way it's going to move. Okay. But I get to say what that's like. The river that is the universal current of existence is moving in the direction it's moving, but I get to decide how I play in that river. I get to decide how I swim. I get to decide who I play with, who I stand next with, and the quality of my character and the content of what I offer the river at that moment, and how I influence other people in the river freaking matters. It freaking matters, because we impact other people along the way. So yeah, the universe is going to do what it's going to do. The elephant's going and you're a gnat. The flow is flowing in the direction it's going, but you get to determine how you want to show up. And that is everything, because it's the whole point of your life. And you get to change people. You get to help people. You get to uplift people. Just like you were saying earlier, Candace, oh my God, we get through this by loving each other and reaching out to one another. And, Candace, you have played a massive role in my life. I shudder to think if you would have said no to your calling and purpose, where I would be. I can honestly tell you, I don't know if I would be in Atmana doing what I'm doing. I really don't. That's how much of an impact you've had on me. And I'm just one person, Candace. Oh my so goodness. I think it is so important. And then look at all the people I've helped. And my clients in our Facebook group, like that one, Doug posted today, who he found me through you. Oh my gosh, Doug found me through you, Candace, last year. He enrolled in my program. Today, he got his first client to do intuitive coaching with, a man, by the way. It's just beautiful how it all unfolds. So I think that it is abdicating your power, abdicating your integrity, and abdicating your truth to give yourself the excuse of not taking responsibility and standing up in your power and doing what you are. It is so painful to not live your purpose. It is so painful to not speak your truth. And it is an excuse to not do it, to say it doesn't matter. It matters. It matters. You might not be able to see how it matters, but it does matter. And it is a choice to believe it matters or it doesn't. I believe that we are more powerful than we can possibly imagine. We are born for a specific purpose, and that we are guided every single moment by spirit to live that purpose and to express that power. Those are the 3 foundational principles upon which I live my life. And those are my truths. I will spend the rest of my life trying to embody those truths. And I think that so many people are understanding that now. And I don't think it's about convincing people. I don't think it's about pointing fingers. I think it is about letting the life we live be a testament to the truth that we are and what we could become if we would decide to focus on that.
My higher self is laughing so hard behind me and making me smile so much. My muscles are hurting a little bit. You know, you said a couple of things. First off, thank you for your kind words, but this is the God's honest truth too. When there's some times in the last 2.5 years where I've had some of my harder days thinking globally, and some of the things that have gotten me through those days are you. I mean, truly you and your incredible energy that comes forth so beautifully. I just bask in it. But you said something, and my higher self is laughing so hard behind me about when you're not living your truth and you're not being, who you meant to be. It's painful. And that's how and why my physical body decided on January 1st, 2000 to go, you haven't been listening like this. I mean, it was just, it was like getting struck by lightning, really. And it made absolutely no sense because there wasn't anything that I could tell that day that precipitated it. But what really precipitated it was I wasn't coming into my full reason, my full purpose for being here. And it took a while to figure out what that was, but that journey began that day. And it started out by trying to figure out how to fix myself. But what I have learned and I bet you in your coaching academy and your students are learning this too. So many of the best healers and best coaches, we start out just trying to help ourselves, heal and help ourselves. And then once you sort of figure some of that out, then you can see that the bigger picture is the connection with others. And how wonderful. I cannot tell you how proud I am to see this thing that you have created in the world, because it's just gone and it's this magnificent thing. When I remember seeing you just walk into that auditorium all those years ago, and you weren't in this realm yet and at all. And that's a wonderful thing, not just for me, but for the world. Of course, your family and those who you do connect with directly, but for the world. And I think this is a great place to kind of wrap it up and have people tell people how they can find you and what it is that you offer.
Yeah. So you can find me over on, like all people, Instagram at Heather Alice Shea, and my website is heatheralice.com. So what Atmana Academy is we train and certify intuitive focused life coaches. So we're the world's first dual certification life coach training school. So we combine the best of traditional life coaching skills. I always say I went to graduate school, so you don't have to. I bring kind of the best of my mental health background. We learn those basic foundational skills, And then also we have quite literally the world's first curriculum on how to integrate your intuition, your intuitive abilities, your ability to read energy, however that presents to you as an empath and intuitive. We have research supported and based educational training and frameworks that help you reliably and ethically integrate your intuition into the coaching practice, into your coaching practice, just in the way that you're called to. So if you're interested in becoming I don't know, I love the word healer because I think at the end of the day, that's what we're all doing. But it's been absolutely wild to see it grow. I think that coaching is truly the answer to, I know a lot of people are hesitant to call themselves a coach. I think all of that is going to be changing. I think in the near future, we're going to be looking at, some industry regulation, not just everybody's going to be able to call themselves a coach. So, it is dynamic and fun, and our coaches are thriving and stepping out into the world and creating their own unique practices, expressing their gifts, discovering what their intuitive abilities are, just sitting in session and just watching people's life change. Like it's 3 intuitive coaching sessions are like a year of therapy. It's crazy how fast people can change when you are really confident in your skill set. So that's what we do. I love it. We have got a lot of really cool things planned. I haven't said, I guess I'll just announce it right now. I think we're going to roll out a level 1 facilitator certification.
Oh,
I'm going to, I have a method that I've coached for years. It's higher self-alignment. So I think we've got that in the works. So it's a lot of fun. I love it. So find me at heatheralishshea.com and I would be happy to hang out with you. We've got all kinds of free resources over in our Facebook group, so you can get started there too.
super. Well, Heather, thank you for making my day.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. This is always a blast. I appreciate it.
It's always great. It's always great talking to you. One of these days, I'm going to have to come down and see you in person in Jacksonville. One of these days when travel becomes reasonable.
Get on a plane and come see me, sister.
All right. All right. Well, thanks again. And thank you everyone for tuning in to another episode of Quantum Realms, and look for the next one because it's coming up soon. All right. Bye everyone for now.